So, hi, welcome everybody. My name is Melissa Reed. I'm the new Awards and Grants Chair, and I've taken the position on from a wonderful VASTA member who has done the job for 4 years very, very well. And I'm really, really hoping that I do as good of a job as she did. And I'm having a moment where, excuse me. Excuse me, I had Brienne Larson, and of course her name is Brienne Taylor. But today we're just going to go through a few details about the funding in VASTA. And if you've never applied for an award, I hope that this is an opportunity for you to ask questions and simply to learn how the funding process works within our organization. So uh, we'll talk about the Awards and Grants Committee and then go through a few of the awards, talk about the funding opportunities that come up throughout the year and also later in the year. And then if you have questions, I hope you'll feel comfortable asking them about possibly your own situation or just hypothetical situations with any funding that you might have in mind for this season or in funding periods in the future. So I think it's helpful to know how this works within our organization. The Awards and Grants Committee is about 8 to 12 members. The number shifts year to year. Sometimes we have a member who sits off of his funding cycle because maybe they want to apply for an award, or they may have a really somebody who's close to them who's applying and they decide to recuse themselves for that reason. For example, if you had a graduate student who might be applying and you felt like your presence on the committee was going to detract from their application, then that might be a time when somebody would sit off for a spell. What's really wonderful about the Awards and Grants Committee is that it always includes the past presidents. So there's a lot of institutional knowledge that is brought to the Awards and Grants Committee. So we have the Awards and Grants Committee, and then the Awards and Grants Committee answers to the Financial Oversight Committee within VASTA. And then the Financial Oversight Committee also gives recommendations to the board. So there are so many different layers and ways that decisions get made, but the Awards and Grants Committee is really only determining the award. And often if there's a special situation, then we will bring a question to the Financial Oversight Committee, just in the interest of keeping everything transparent and moving forward in a good way. If you're interested in joining the Awards and Grants Committee, I'd love to find I'd love to find maybe one or two more members for this year. I'm especially motivated to find somebody outside the US, but I'm also would welcome anybody really who's motivated and interested in the work. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. So for this year, for the conference, there's actually in total over $7,000 available. Some of the awards are quite specific, and not everybody will match those criteria. But the main thing that most people are interested in is the Conference Travel Award. And this award can be split within the budget. So it can go to one member, it could go to two or even three members. In fact, last year we ended up splitting the award into three parts. And this travel award is really based on financial need, and that's a huge component of the application. Also based on career goals and the potential impact. So we are really interested in helping people who need some assistance getting to the conference and want to encourage people to not be shy about applying for this. I'm going to go in and show you the Google form in a few minutes. It's a basic Google form, but basically what you need to do is provide your contact information and a narrative of financial needs. It's a 1 to 2 page essay, double space, but then when you're done with it, actually, we just ask you to put it into the Google form. A short CV, like a condensed CV, and then the history of your VASTA membership. This is just for the conference. Yep. There are some other awards that I'll go over in just a moment. So this is just for getting to the conference. Okay. Good question. The conference this year is in Pomona, California in mid-October. Um, I'll get into that. The location can be relevant to the award as well. So when the Awards and Grants Committee is looking at all of these different applications, they want to really understand what the financial need is. And it could be any number of things, like perhaps your early career or still in graduate school, or if you are a visiting professor or non-tenure track professor, perhaps you have less institutional support. Also, if you're a self-employed artist or a business owner like me, and you don't have institutional support at all.
Mhm.
And or perhaps your specific family situation, um, kind of in combination with your career is just presenting a really tough time in your life for professional development opportunities. And so we'd love to for you to be candid in your application and explain exactly how the award would impact you. And that said, the location, your location in relationship to where the conference is can definitely have some bearing on who we fund. And so, for example, we've talked about in the past if there was a graduate student who really, really wanted to go to the conference and it was two states over and we could only afford to give them $200, well, that could still make a really big impact in their life. So it's possible that we could even split this award into more than just two or three, depending on what happens. So this is an award that the Clyde Vinson Memorial Scholarship, this is an award that is geared toward very, very early career trainers. Um, and it's a really generous award. It was funded at $500 by the estate of Clyde Vinson at his behest. And then this has been topped up by a very generous anonymous member through the year 2031. And this is $2,500 a cash payment or cash scholarship, and then also a reimbursement to help get that scholarship winner to the conference in California. A year of free membership and a waiver of the conference fee. So this application is a little bit more involved. I'll show you that in just a moment. But this is for somebody who really is at the beginning of their career. And we've had in the past discussions of what that means. A career changer is also possible. Somebody really just pivoted, like from like let's say they were in tech and then they pivoted and they were in a different, moving into the voice field. That could possibly qualify as well. But we do have a discussion of what eligibility is. For all of these rewards, the way that the committee works is uh, looking at the applications from three lenses through the thoroughness of the proposal, the perceived value to the applicant, and also the perceived value to Vesta. And I have a little asterisk by the thoroughness of the proposal because the eligibility is a part of that. So if, for example, with the Clyde Vinson, if you have been a voice trainer for 5 years, you might be a highly qualified applicant, but that probably would not qualify under the criteria laid out by the funder. Uh, the perceived value to the applicant, this is where you can really make your case in a narrative sense of what the funding would mean to you, whether it's the Clyde Vinson or the Travel Award, so that we really see what impact this money can have on you and your career. Also, what impact it might have on your community, whether that's your community of teachers or community of clients, your fellow students, perhaps, if you're early in your career. And then for the third section, the perceived value to Vasta. This is why it's really important that I have a lot of different people on the awards and grants committee with a different backgrounds, so that if somebody, let's say somebody applies and they have a very different background than what I have, then we have somebody on the committee who can say, oh, actually, this applicant could really bring this unique perspective, maybe because they have this medical background or they have this other interesting wrinkle in their career. And so we really do rely on the members of the Awards and Grants Committee to help us figure out what the perceived value to Vasta would be. That said, you can also make that case within your application. Like, how can your involvement and being at the conference help Vasta? I'd like to highlight this award. This is the EDIA Plus Travel Scholarship, and it's not directly under the Awards and Grants Committee, but it is due at the same time. So I thought I'd just briefly describe it. So if you have any questions about it, you can contact the chair of that committee, and their name is Sammy Grant. And so this is another travel scholarship for the conference itself to get you to the conference. And this is, well, I'll tell you what, I've got the, I'm going to switch and go to the website. I've got it right here. So there are two awards for this year, $1,250 and a waived conference fee. So I would encourage you, if you qualify under the EDIA Plus criteria, you can apply for the Travel Conference Award and you can apply for the EDIA Plus Award. You cannot get both, but you can apply for both. And I would encourage you to. Mm, can you hear me?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay, thanks. So what we have is uh, what I think are some nice ways to get people to the conference, at least to help defray some of those costs. So we have the deadline for conference proposals that's coming up. Then we have the deadline, the actual scholarship deadline, application awards for May 1st, and then September 4th is the deadline to get the Vasta rate at the hotel. And I'm not exactly sure what the hotel situation is this year. I know that the conference itself is going to be at a university, but I believe there's a associated hotel with that conference site. Um, before before I show you talk about the Menon Research Grant and the membership enrichment grants, I just thought I would show you the applications. Um, because we're here and we should talk about it. These applications are Google Forms. Um, because they have a file upload, you are prompted at the beginning to log into Google. And I have mixed feelings about that, I'll be honest. I was telling Tanya, I just moved back to the US from Germany. I have some privacy concerns. Like privacy, really privacy bullish on privacy now. So if you already have a Google account, which a lot of people do, if you already have a Google account, I would encourage you to just use it to log in. However, if you don't have a Google account and you don't want to create one, I certainly understand that. Please contact me and I'll send you a PDF of this application. And then we can do it manually. But if you do have a Google account, feel free to use that. So we have some basic contact information for the travel award, a condensed CV. And then this here, please submit an essay about your financial need. If you can simply paste that into the form. And I've added this as a change for this year. If you would like to attach some additional documentation about your budget, about the costs related to getting to the conference, if you could, you can compile those into a PDF. If you feel like you need more room and you'd like to provide a little bit more detail, that's why I created that. And then there's simply some questions about your membership and any funding that you may have received from Vasta in the past. So that said, this one is not live yet on the website, but it should be in the next couple days. If you don't want to use Google, contact me and we'll figure out a way to get you the application, okay? The Clyde Vinson Scholarship, it's the same thing, it's very similar. This is for early career. This is a little bit of background about Dr. Vinson. This is all basic information, very similar. The Clyde Vinson Award asks for a letter of recommendation from a current VASTA member. Okay. Let's stop there. Do you have any questions about either of those awards, the Clyde Vinson Award or the Conference Travel Award? Yes, of course. Hi, Francis.
Hi. So, with the Clyde Vinson, this is early career and it comes with a free VASTA membership.
Yes,
So, do you have to be a member of VASTA already to apply?
that's a great question. You do not need to be a member of VESTA to apply.
Okay, so it would be for someone who's not even yet a member, but has graduated and has started their career?
I believe that is how we have set it up in the past, but I let me get back to you on that, okay? Um, if you don't mind, can you send me your email you can send it in the chat or you could send it privately through the chat?
Oh, for sure.
Great. Um, that would be great. It's a very good question. I think that the assumption is that somebody would be a member, but nobody's ever asked that question before, at least in the past 3 years that I've been involved in the committee. So I think it's worth clarifying. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thanks. Okay. Any other questions about the travel award or the Clyde Vinson? And also, if you know somebody who's interested, like maybe they could join. Um, and all right, there we go. All right. We have a few other opportunities within Vesta. There is the Dorothy Menon Research Grant. And Dorothy Menon was basically one of the founders of VASTA, excuse me. And these are for professional development, research projects. And this person really does need to have been a member for 4 years and without having let their membership lapse. I was telling, here we go. So this is simply from the website, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the criteria. Um, these The Menon grants tend to be for very specific projects, and so the application is a little bit more rigorous, a little bit more like what you would encounter within your institutions if you work at a university, with a little bit more detail about the budget, um, some of the other stakeholders, and any other additional sources of funding. The Awards and Grants Committee we funded lots of different projects. So this list here should not be a limit you in your ideas about what you could fund or what you could do for your project. The only real limitation is that we won't fund any computer. Scott, I'm going to mute you if you don't mind, but feel free to come back if you have any questions. The only thing that we decided not to do is not to directly fund any computer purchases or microphone purchases. But if there were some teaching material that you wanted for your classroom that's more voice related, like some anatomical drawings or perhaps some other types of 3D models, then that would be something um, that we would look at, definitely. The next one I think is really exciting, and this is a shift represents a shift within Vasta. We have some membership enrichment grants, and for a long time the amount was really low. And then things got really expensive. And so we talked to the board, and now we have more money for these. So these are what I think are actually doable amounts for hosting some events. So, for example, there's Meg 1. If you'd like to hold a gathering for members, I'm not sure, let's say you live close to Chicago, but you'd like to gather some Vasta members and have a guest speaker or have some other kind of voice-related networking event, then $500, I think you could do it, right? I think that it could happen. The MEG 2 is a little bit larger, and this is a grant to fund like a mini regional conference. And we're very excited because we have one coming up in April in Washington, D.C. That's been funded by the MEG 2 grant. And there are some stipulations on the website about how VASTA members specifically have to be treated within those events, meaning for the regional conferences, you can charge money for the regional conferences, but if a VASTA member needs to be able to get a discount for those events. But $1,000 if you're creative with then I think that $1,000 can make something happen, especially if it were for one day or maybe 2 days. I won't go over those in any more detail, but because there's a lot of detail on the website, if you do have any questions about applying for a MEG, we really want to use that money. I'd love to get rid of all that money this year. Do you have a question, Francis?
Yeah, I do. So when I read the grant for regional conferences up to $1,000, that would be for an individual who is uh, perhaps a business and putting it on themselves? Or would it be something like if there was already a conference in place, like for NATS or something like that?
So not related to another
Right. So it has to
organ,
be, so this is something that you would do if you were in a really small town that didn't have
or
an
potentially
organization
we're
for it.
we're really open to any proposal. Let's take a look at let's look at the same page at the same time. Uh, let's look at the MEG 2 together. The member requesting the grant may not be a presenter receiving a fee. So the purpose cannot be profit driven. So, for example, let me give you an example from my life. So, I work with a lot of startup founders, I work with entrepreneurs, I do some long form speech development. My business is not really set up for this. Like, I can't have a conference where I charge people $500 to come and then I take Vasta's money because that's for a kind of a general audience. Um, the question about gnats is interesting though, and I'm wondering if we could, can you talk a little bit more about this brainstorm that you just threw out? Like, how would that interact with another organization?
Yeah, so I'm part of several. Hello, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's minus 25 today. um, with I'm part of smaller organizations here within my city, and um, I was just wondering if the regional conferences, if an organization could apply for a grant if that organization didn't have enough money of their own funding. And that was the thought.
That is a good question. How I think that the my instinct tells me that that would be a no
Okay.
because I believe the idea is to serve Vasta members or get more Vasta members. Now, if you can make the case that you can recruit some more Vasta members, that could possibly work. But to fund another organization to me is less interesting. Um, but you know what? I would say that it, if you can create the narrative that this is going to serve Vasta and our membership, then perhaps. Um, it,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, um, would the benefit be more to Vasta or to the alternate organization would be a
So
question. And
for
you don't have to answer that right now, but
yeah, for instance, with Nats, um, most of those members are singing teachers, where they might not realize the benefits of being part of voice and speech. So I find I don't know what it's like in other places in the world, but you have to, in my town in Canada, you really have to promote the learning of speech arts, that spoken arts, that kind of thing. And uh, sometimes people in my community don't really know about Vasta.
I think you should apply.
Maybe I will.
I think you should. I think you should apply. If there's a way to, if there's a way to grow our membership and especially into a new region or a less covered region, I think that can be quite compelling. That's a good question. We're really excited about this mini conference in DC. If you're anywhere near, I might be able to get there. I'm a little bit outside. I'm outside of Philadelphia, so I think it's going to be possible for me to get there. Mm, we're actually nearing the end of what I wanted to talk about. If you're interested in joining the Awards and Grants Committee, please send me an email. We meet once a year on Zoom, and the rest of our work is asynchronous. We do all of our adjudication online, and if we have any questions about applicants or ideas about applications, then we handle that over email. So it really is kind of a low lift way to get involved in Vasta if you're interested. But any other questions or thoughts about? Hi, Scott.
Hey, um, So I'm wondering about the professional development, the Dorothy Menon research
Mm-hmm.
grant. So our company is researching the possibility of working with the medical profession and also developing a wearable app. There's a conference in England that is focusing on empathy in
Mm-hmm.
the medical profession, a global conference um, that I wish to go to. And so I'm wondering if this particular grant could be in support. I mean, it's basically, assistance in travel funds to continue that research. Is that something that
Mm-hmm.
this?
I think you should apply.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. And when is
Yeah.
when's the due date for this? Is this May
The-
1st as
oh,
well?
excuse me. No, it's not. This is later in the year. This is why I didn't cover it. This is in November.
Oh, in November. Okay.
Yeah. So you're
So
planning.
and so the conference is in April, unfortunately. And
Oh,
I'm
okay. But
assuming all grants are forward looking. They're not.
they're all forward. They're all
Yeah.
forward looking. Yep.
Okay.
What about, but uh, is it a yearly conference? Perhaps you could apply next year.
Ah, great idea. Yeah.
Yep. I would say keep it in your radar.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And this, of course, I didn't go over this. I feel like this is quite clear, but this is there's no Google form for this. Just submit all of the materials to us. And we do have some projects, Dorothy Menon projects, that have had two VASTA members. And that's totally fine if you have a team member, or if
Mm-hmm.
if there's a team member at your organization or at a different organization, you could list somebody else on the project. That would be
Okay.
fine. But
For sure. Good to know.
great. Yep, definitely. Yes, they're all forward looking. Okay, so I have one thing to follow up on. I need to follow up with Francis's question. And then, and are there any other questions about this year's funding opportunities? Do you have any, or if you have any students who you think could be really good applicants for the Clyde Vinson, please,
Mm-hmm.
please, please let them know, because that's, I think, a nice chunk of change for
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's early career. Um, and there are really, there's no project associated with the Clyde Vinson. This is really to support people who are in our field just starting out. So I think that this is a nice one.
Mm-hmm.
So, Melissa, where I'm in my first year teaching, would that be
Hmm.
something I could also apply for?
This is,
Or is
I would encourage you to apply.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I would encourage you to apply, because you don't know who else may or may not apply,
Right. Okay.
right? Because there are some years that the first year that I was on the awards and grants committee, we only got three applications for the Menon,
Okay.
I'm sorry, for the Clyde Vinson.
Hmm.
Last year we had about 10, but the first year I did, and the second year I can't quite remember, but the first year I did this, there were very few applications. So you just
Okay.
you really just don't know what the other applications will look like. But
Okay, perfect.
okay,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. Anything else? Let me get you, Francis. Um, make sure I'm not overlooking anything before. There are some other awards that my committee doesn't have as much to do with. There's a VSR award. This is related to research. If you're interested, if you're going to publish in the VSR, this is a possibility. Um, these are handled by the VSR editorial team. Anything else, everybody, before we say goodbye? I like to keep it short.
Mm-hmm. Just
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you
Yeah.
so
All
much.
right. Bye. Bye, Francis.
Yay.
Francis, I have your email. I'll get back to you, okay?
Yeah, no problem. Don't
All
worry.
right. Thanks a lot. Take care,
Thanks,
everybody.
Melissa.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bye.
Melissa.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.